Brains. Brains. Nah, these zombies don't say brains. These zombies are the Walking Dead. They just growl, they grunt, they make all sorts of inhumane noises. But that's what we're going to talk about here on The Real Review. All without, hopefully, spoiling it for all of you. Though I'm sure there's not very many people out there that it could be spoiled for. This is AMC's most popular show. It's one that's been breaking its own ratings records throughout the course of its run. It's currently in the midst of Season 4's mid-season break. However, this coming Sunday, February the 9th, that is going to be over. That will be no more. It will cease to be, and we will see the final couple of episodes in Season number 4. But let's talk about a couple of basics. Let's talk about the fact that Rick, who is a former police officer, I say former because at the beginning of the series he is, but he suffers a bit of a mishap, a bit of an injury that lands him in the hospital in a comatic state. Whenever he awakens, he finds that the world has been overrun with zombies, and this poses a couple of different problems for Rick. For one, he has no clue where his wife and his son Carl are, and he also has no idea if there's any other survivors out there aside from him. Now, the second question is quickly answered, that there are other people out there that have not been overrun by the zombies yet and have actually been defending themselves from this oncoming menace. Now, he also is able to find his wife and Carl, and they are able to kind of go from place to place, from location to location, in an effort to try to find sanctuary from the zombie hordes, which is something that does not seem to ever happen, because, after all, this is something that is becoming worse by the day. This outbreak continues to grow in magnitude as more and more innocents are being bitten and transformed into zombies. Now, along the way, he's finding a bunch of other different characters, including his former partner, Shane. He also finds Daryl Dixon, who is played by the incomparable Norman Reedus, or as I like to call him, Norman Diabetes. But I almost did it again there. But Daryl Dixon is actually one of the most popular characters on the show. He's more popular than Rick, even though Rick is the main character. He is definitely the icon. He's the one that everybody is really crazy about. Everyone really, really loves Daryl Dixon, probably because he's a badass with a crossbow. That's pretty awesome, and I almost have to agree. This is the character whose cardboard cutout sells like hotcakes at the store that I work at, so hey, if you know a lady in your life and you know that she likes The Walking Dead, get her a Norman Reedus cardboard cutout, a Daryl Dixon Norman Reedus cardboard cutout. That is a mouthful to say, but let me tell you, Valentine's Day is coming, and I know that you want her to be on your penis, but if her imagining his penis inside of her actually gets yours inside of her, then there you go. One thing I really like about this show is the fact that they really have brewed a genuine sense of urgency. They've brewed a genuine sense of a zombie phenomenon. Like, what would happen if a zombie outbreak happened tomorrow? What if it would happen next year? What if it happened by the end of this recording? Zombies have definitely become a really hot property once again. Now, this was something that was kind of a hot property throughout the course of the past 40 or 50 years that zombies have been in film. However, it has never been a wave of popularity that we've seen like this ever before. Even with the original inception of the Night of the Living Dead, the Day of the Dead series and everything like that, and the Land of the Dead that continued, and all of the subsequent sequels, and all of the different series that kind of emerged thanks to that, such as Evil Dead, blah, 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 have we ever seen such a collective cultural drive toward trying to solve the problem of what we would do in the event of a zombie apocalypse? This is something where we have novelizations on this, we have guides, there are full websites that are dedicated to it, there are zombie survival handbooks that are available. Not to mention, there are also a plethora of films, short stories, series. This is now something that people are willing to touch in a more lengthy fashion as opposed to just in a short little serial fashion. World War Z was a book that was a little bit geared toward a gigantic pandemic, which is very similar to a zombie apocalypse as far as that's concerned, and that just got a film version just last year in 2013 with Brad Pitt playing the lead. That is a huge name to play a lead in something such as this. I really enjoyed with this series how it also really took off and, really hit the ground running. Now, this is based off of a comic book, so this is something where the initial shock and everything like that and trying to find survivors is certainly something that you want to illuminate with a lot of fast-paced action. But also, this was done in only 5 episodes. That's right, the first season was only 5 episodes in length, and it almost seemed like this was an idea that was destined to just be more of a mini-series or a bit of a, one-off television event as opposed to a full-fledged series, but it was so popular and had such a huge following from the moment that it happened that this is something that needed to really expand itself and become bigger than it really was, and it definitely became bigger than what it really was. The second season was a little bit slower. It really centered along a lot of plot development, a lot of character development, and you really started to get into the internal lives about these characters, which almost made it a bona fide zombie, soap opera. And, for as crazy as that sounds, and for as weird as that sounds, and for as unappealing as it actually sounds for a lot of people, this is actually a zombie soap opera that you can get into, because the intertwinings of these characters certainly all have a viable impact to not only their survival, but the overall survival of the group. Whenever you get into Season 3, you see them find a little bit more sanctuary after running into some help, running into a very, very popular character by the name of Michonne, and reaching a prison. Now, this is also one where we see one of the largest antagonists that the series has seen up until this point, a gentleman by the name of the Governor. And this is a guy that throughout Season 3 and the first part of Season 4 has really wreaked a lot of havoc on the group, and has really been just a constant nuisance, a constant menace. It's to the point where in Season 4, and this is a little bit of a spoiler, there are a couple of episodes that are dedicated squarely on him. This is a series that has really transcended a lot of different boundaries. It is definitely up the gore content that is available on television. This is certainly one that, even though it's in a 9 o'clock time slot, definitely does not feel as though it really has, it really has that 9 o'clock time slot feel. It almost feels like you're seeing all this blood and gore at 7 or 6 o'clock in the evening, just simply because this is such an available hour for people to see it. And this is something that you really needed in a series like this. You really, really needed to have this series have a real large amount of blood and gore to really showcase just kind of how real a zombie apocalypse was going to be, and just what you were going to have to do in order to survive. Now, there has been some debate by a lot of individuals about how pure that the television show has been versus the comic book. And this is something that, honestly, I can't really touch all of that much. Not because out of a lack of interest, or not because out of a lack of knowledge, but principally because there are people out there much smarter than I that remember a whole hell of a lot more than I do, that can tell all of the differences, all of the changes, all of the slight alterations that have occurred throughout the television show versus the comic book. And y'all can do that in the comments. And man, I just turned Southern, even though this show takes place in the South. It takes place in Atlanta and surrounding areas. Really, really like this show. I love the way that this is shot. I love the pacing of this. At some points in time, it can get a little bit irritating and seem like it goes a little bit slow. But during those moments, you just have to know that it's all building towards something. And once that happens, holy crap, it becomes a visual work of art. This is something where all of the gore, all of the blood, all of the violent portions of this show really become the center point of the artistic portion. They really had to be very creative whenever they were making these zombies, whenever they were crafting them on such a wide level, because this is certainly one where it's not just 5 or 6 zombies every couple of minutes or every episodes or something like that. There are some moments where there seems to be over 100 different extras there that are dressed up in unique zombie makeup, and it definitely has a fantastic feel to it. It gives it a very individualized feel. It doesn't feel as though each and every zombie is just a cardboard cutout of the previous one that came just a couple of moments ago. It instead feels like exactly what you'd expect from a zombie apocalypse, that these were people that were transformed into these creatures, and they still have a little bit of that human portion remaining on their exterior. In the interior, not so much. It's all been replaced with the zombie virus. But on the exterior, yeah, it still resembles a real person. I really dig this show. This show definitely is one of my favorites of the current age that is still on television today. I want to know what you guys think about The Walking Dead. I want to know what you guys think is going to happen in the second half of Season 4. Let me know in the comments, and I'll catch you guys next time right here on The Real Review on the Theater of the Sun channel. Later.